How's everybody doing this evening? I want to talk tonight about the EOS offering, or what we would call, I don't think you would call it an offering, I don't think you would call it an ICO, initial coin offering. And I want to talk a little bit about EOS, and I want to talk about ICOs, and I want to talk about IPOs, initial public offerings. Because everybody seems to make this all scrambled, and everybody kind of thinks it's all the same thing, but it's not. An initial public offering is when a stock goes from a private company to a public company. And what you're buying when you buy stock on an IPO, initial public offering, is you're not buying the company. If you think you're buying the company, go buy some Walmart stock and then walk into Walmart and try and walk out with some groceries. You'll get arrested at the door. You're not buying any interest in Walmart when you buy Walmart stock. You're buying a representation of an interest in Walmart through the stock. You have zero, especially with common stock, you have zero ability to make any decisions with the company. You can't make any decisions in the company. Maybe with preferred stock, you could have a little bit of voting right. But when you go out and buy everyday, ordinary, common stock in a company like Walmart, you don't have an interest in the company. You have zero decision-making ability and zero ability to do. You show up at a board meeting, see what happens. If you show up at a Walmart board meeting when you go out and buy a few shares of common stock of Walmart, you have no interest in it. The only thing you own is you own this representation of the company through the stock. And as the financials, the stock become better, your interest in that stock becomes more valuable. But you have no interest in the company. And this has always been something that's just really disturbed me, because so many people go, well, yeah, when you buy stock, you own the company. But no, you don't own the company. I used to be a broker. I used to deal with this stuff all the time. You don't own the company. You don't have any interest in the company. You own interest in the stock. And a lot of times that equity interest is how the people that start these companies make their money, is they take the company public, they sell that representation of the interest in the company, and they go public, and then they get their money out of it. The people, the inside people that initially put the money up for the IPO, which we consider the whales, would sell on the opening. The people that bought on the opening, thinking they were all of a sudden being able to invest in a great company, ended up becoming bag people, hanging on to the stock and basically getting hosed while the insiders got out. And that's kind of what would happen most of the times with IPOs. Now it comes along with these ICOs, and they try to compare them to the IPO. And most IPOs, especially for large companies, are not going to help the small investor out. The small investors are just going to get screwed on an IPO most generally. And if they do a small IPO and small penny stocks, pink sheet stocks, those companies usually are more worthless than any cryptocurrency that anybody's ever imagined or thought out. So anyway, but back to EOS. What you're buying in EOS is you're actually buying a product. You're buying an interest in the platform that's running the applications. So how I would compare it to is with EOS, what you're really buying is, let's say it's a municipality. I'll just give you a comparison. If you have a municipality or a township, they go out and they purchase some land. They purchase some land from a farmer or from somebody. They take that land and they start to build it out. They put sewer lines, they put water lines, they put electrical lines, and they make this all so people can start to build houses out on this new land. They lay streets. They put fire hydrants. They do all the great stuff. They hire a fire department. They hire a police department. They do all this great stuff. So now that you can come in, you can buy one of these little tracts of land, and you can build a house. Now the municipality doesn't really have an interest in your house. You can build a house, and you can build whatever you want to build in the house. You can build a fancy house. You can build a cheap house. You can build a house made of good materials. You can build a house made of bad materials. The municipality, generally doesn't care as long as it meets some minimum standard, some housing code, some basic standard. The municipality doesn't care. And that's just the way EOS is. They're setting up a utility. They're setting up a utility for you to come in and build something on. And when you own the EOS coin, you own a little piece of that utility. You own a little piece of that township, a little piece of that municipality that took the raw land and made it into buildable areas to build houses. So you can go build your house. House being like the application or the API that you want to build, whatever you wanted to think of or build. But you're actually building something on their foundation. And that's what you're buying, and you're buying the EOS coin, you're buying the foundation. So now that you build your house and you got your house all built, EOS doesn't really care about your finances. I mean, they don't really care if you've got a good mortgage, a bad mortgage. They don't really care if you're in foreclosure, if you're not foreclosure. I mean, that's outside of their interest. All they're interested in is they've given you a platform to build on. And maybe when they give you the platform to build on, you have a voting right in that platform, or in how that city is run, or how that municipality is run, or how that community is run. And that's what this is about. That's what you're getting when you're buying EOS. It's not an ICO, it's not an initial coin offering. You're buying a piece of something to build on. You're buying, just like if you bought a little piece of land on a piece of in a housing community, and everything was built out for you, and you went in and built your house on it. Nobody really cares as long as you met the standard, built your house. Nobody really cares if you paid your mortgage, but you got to build the house. That's what you're buying when you're buying EOS. You're literally buying a piece of real estate. You're buying something, an interest, and something that you can build on. You can build on something like that. That's what the EOS is. And for people to say how this is so, it should be regulated, and it's so, you're not really buying anything, and it's so much worse than what's going on with all the regulations and all the crap that goes on in the Security and Exchange Commission, and how people, you're getting, if you do something with stocks and securities, you're being protected. And in that environment, you're okay. You got the government behind you, and they're getting protected. Do you know how many people have been ripped off buying stocks? Do you know how many people have been ripped off in IPOs? Do you know how many people have lost money, life savings, lost everything they owned, investing in some sort of an initial public offering, IPO, where people put money in thinking all of a sudden they've invested in a good company? I'll tell you a story, somebody that I knew. I knew somebody that used to work at Coors Brewery, when they were a private company, and thought it was a really well-run company. And put, I think, $10,000 or $12,000. This is a long, long time ago. This is I think Coors went public initially way back in the 70s. So they put $10,000 or $12,000 of the money, thinking that it was a well-run company, because they used to actually work for the company, and thought it was a pretty well-run company. Well, as soon as the stock started trading, it just took a beating. And the reason it took a beating, because everybody that was an insider that helped bring it public took the money out, because they had big appreciations on opening days. That person lost most of their $10,000, and I don't think it ever recovered for years and years and years. Lost better than 50 or 60% of their money on the very first day of trading. So that's what happens in IPOs. But IPOs are wonderful things, and ICOs are horrible. And then if you do something like EOS, then you're really rotten, because you're doing it outside the country, and you have to have a lot of disclosures in order to keep people from suing you. So you just do, you basically do something where everybody thinks that you're just a big ripoff. But if you look at this hard and you think about what it is, and you understand a little bit, something like EOS is giving you a part of the deal, and they're actually giving you an opportunity to invest in something that is they're giving you something real. They're giving you a product, instead of investing in a representation of the company like you are when you're investing in the stock market. They're giving you some voting rights, which is a lot different than if you buy a common stock where you have no voting rights. And they're giving you something to build on, which is something you're never going to get when you buy stock in a traditional company. So all this BS about how bad people are being ripped off by the coin market, or how bad people are being ripped off because a company is actually raising money outside of the United States, is something that we really need to know more about. So anyway, I hope you watch, or hope you understand. I've probably thrown a lot of information, a lot of stuff that most people don't think about too hard, because I even seen Inside Business Reports and the Wall Street Journal and all these different publications and financial, they'll all tell you the same BS about, well, when you buy stocks, you're buying a piece of the company. You own a piece of the company. You know, and before I go here, because the lights are starting to go, there's an interesting story. If you read the book Made in America by Sam Walton, he talks about a story when when Walmart was a private company. His wife used to go in and just pull stuff off the shelf and walk out the door. Didn't pay for it because it was Walmart and it was their private business and they owned it, so she wouldn't pay for anything. Well, then after they went public, she continued to do the same thing. She was walking into the store, taking stuff off the shelf and walking out. And Sam Walton, had to tell her, say, we can't do that any longer. We're a public company and you just can't walk in and pull things off the shelf. You can't do that because we're a public company. So I thought it was an interesting story. It's in his book, Made in America. So anyway, I appreciate you watching, and at least one light stayed on for me. Thanks a lot. Bye.